Hi, guys.
Hi everyone. How are you doing? Hi Luke.
Hey, Nick. How are you?
Can you hear me well? Thank you. I'm doing well. Hey everyone, nice to see you here today. I think we can start. And my name Nick Kobets, and I'm responsible for LiveAction as a Softprom BDM. Today I'm glad to introduce Luke Miller, who is a channel director in LiveAction, and he will present you with what organization need to adopt net performance monitoring in their infrastructure. Please do not hesitate to send any questions in the Q&A block. If you have any questions related to project registration, to the quote or demo request, you can send it directly to me via email. I will leave it in the chat. Luke, please, your word. You can start.
Thank you very much, and thank everyone for joining today. I really do appreciate it. As Nick said, please shoot any questions that you want into the Q&A, and I will make sure that I answer every single one of them, to the best of my ability, at least. So, just as an introduction from my side, so my name's Luke Miller. I'm the channel director here at LiveAction. I've been at LiveAction for about a year now, and I've got about 20 years experience in the IT industry. So my role is to work with partners like Softprom to ensure that we are providing a good amount of enablement and a good amount of education to a lot of the partner community all over the world. So what I'm going to do today is go through a presentation that I put together, which is very much a kind of enablement session, if you like. It explains the problem that we solve with our solutions. We have a multitude of solutions, but today, for the purposes of this, I'm going to just focus on one, which is network performance monitoring. So if we're ready to start, I will share my screen real quick. Just share here. Everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So I may be teaching, or going over some information that a lot of you guys already know, and for that I apologize. But there's a reason to why I wanted to kind of go over this. But essentially, this is a very kind of rudimental network, very very basic. Now, obviously, your networks or your customers' networks are much much larger, but this helps kind of paint the picture as to why network performance monitoring is so important. If we think about a network and we think about the potential issues that happen within a network of any size, really, there are often issues which causes a network to suffer an outage, or suffer any form of downtime. And a lot of the time, these downtimes are often extended and longer than they should be, because it is difficult to understand exactly where that problem is originating from. For example, if I have a firewall, and this example is Fortinet, there's an issue within the network. More often than not, it could be the firewall that's causing the problem, a broken rule or an update that's happened which has changed some configuration. In order for me as a security or a network engineer to identify the problem, I would need to go to the Fortinet appliance. In this case, I would go to their GUI, which is FortiMonitor, and I would look within FortiMonitor to understand if the problem is originating there. This is a bit of an issue because I need someone who is security trained or trained in Fortinet and understands how to use FortiMonitor. And as we all know, there is quite a large skill shortage across the industry at the moment, and these types of people can be difficult to find. Now, it may be within the Fortinet firewall, it may be in something else within Fortinet, or it may not be. It may be that I have deployed as an organization, I've deployed vManage, And for vManage, I am managing not just the Cisco switch, but I'm also managing Cisco SD-WAN. And for that, I would need to go to vManage and understand whether or not it's an issue with any of my Cisco-related equipment. Again, I would need someone who's trained in this, who has the time, and to understand whether or not that issue is originating there. But as most organizations face, they, more often than not, organizations are not just Cisco. They're not just Fortinet. And this example, I'm also using a Juniper switch. Again, it could be an issue with that switch. And vManage isn't going to connect to that Juniper switch. I'm going to need some other tool, albeit Juniper or something else, to understand if that switch is having a problem. There are other things in the organization which can cause problems, such as routers. In this example, I'm using a HP router and a TP-Link router. Again, same rules apply. I need someone who understands how these technologies work. I need someone who has the time in order to investigate this issue. More and more organizations are adopting applications. Zoom is a popular choice, as is Teams and all these other applications that we have within an organization in our day-to-day lives. And I would need someone to go onto the application of this device and understand if the issue is resonating there. And again, these are disparate tools. They aren't really designed to work with one another. It may be that we have a limited number of staff in order to manage these tools or to understand if the problem is resonating there. This is a small network. And there's already 6 different places that I need to log on to identify if the issue is there. And this can cause a massive amount of downtime, network outages, and general disruption to the day-to-day life of that organization. And especially when you add in things like AWS, Azure, Office 365, and the cloud, that problem becomes much, much greater. So the problem really is that there are way too many different tools and vendors, and these different tools and vendors aren't designed to work with one another. vManage for Cisco, FortiMonitor for Fortinet, Juniper, Zoom, etc., etc. It takes way too long to identify these issues. And once you've identified the issues, you need someone skilled enough who understands how to address those issues and get that network back up and running. This leads to extended network downtimes, poor customer experience, brand damage, revenue loss, all that sort of stuff. A lot of organizations are planning to move to SD-WAN. This is a long and expensive project in most cases. You need people who understand how that deployment will look. You need people to understand and build that project out. You need a lot of money to make sure that that project that may take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years in order to close, you're obviously paying for these people in these roles in order to define what that is. And a lot of organizations will lean on a partner in order to do that, but they won't generally lean on one partner. You'll lean on 2 or 3 because you don't want to take the first offer that's there, and other partners may have different views and opinions on what is best suited for you. And we can definitely help with that SD-WAN deployment phase, which is what I'll talk about. Now, it's not just me saying this. You know, if you look at Gartner, they think that the average network downtime costs around $5,600 every minute. The average enterprise network goes down for 87 hours per year. This is a loss of $29 million, but it's really, really difficult to kind of quantify that. We've got organizations that are heavily reliant on the network, albeit for manufacturing parts for cars, for example. And those parts can't be made, which means that the cars can't be built and finished, which means that the cars can't be sold, which means that a customer that would have bought that particular brand of car may have gone elsewhere. And how do you kind of quantify that? So there's a little bit of guesswork in there when it comes to things like Gartner and average downtime costs. However, there is a real world example. And back in 2013, Amazon, very heavily reliant on the network, that's where they generate their revenue, they suffered a network outage of 49 minutes. They estimated, and this is their words, that it cost them $5 million. Not even an hour, the network went down, and it still cost $5 million. I must stress as well that that was 10 years ago. If that happened now, that 5 million would be much, much greater, much higher. Again, it's not just us saying this. We actually commissioned a Forrester to do a total economic impact report on two of our solutions, LiveNX, which is what we're talking about today, which is an NPM solution, but also we have another solution called LiveWire, which does deep packet analysis. From that report, they understood that most customers see a return on investment of around 153%, and most organizations pay for the solution in the first 12 months of owning it. There's not many solutions out there in the market that can kind of say this. And they did this because we visualize their network, regardless of the devices, regardless of the locations. And we're able to provide them a massive reduction in the mean time to resolution. So we've identified a problem, here it is, and then we need to resolve that problem. We hugely streamline that report generation by eliminating a lot of those manual processes. So we're providing a lot of kind of automation, but also providing them with the intelligence they need in order to resolve the problem very, very quickly. This leads to an increase in business productivity. The network is down less, there are less network outages, therefore productivity is raised up. And they also avoided a lot of equipment and bandwidth costs. A large amount of our customers have actually paid for the solution because when we're deployed, we can actually tell them how much bandwidth is needed in each of the various locations or networks. So they're actually able to scale back their bandwidth and therefore paid for our solution out of that saved money. But there's also a cost saving in terms of staff costs. These staff that are not normally responding to things like network outages, they don't need to spend as long a time now resolving these issues, and they can actually get on with the job they're employed to do. So who is LiveAction Software? You may have not heard of us. We're generally very, very large in the US, and we're very well known. And when Gartner was doing their Magic Quadrant, we were top right. Most organizations know who people like Riverbed are, or NetScout, or these sorts of guys, which I'll touch on later, and how we're different to them. But essentially, in 2006, we developed the product for the Department of Defense in the United States. They wanted something that was incredibly easy to use because the majority of their network engineers were very, very junior. And they also wanted a way where they could visualize that network very simply because they had a very disparate network. Their network was spread across the world, and most often than not, it was in areas of conflict. So they needed to be able to adjust the network very quickly on the fly, add or remove certain devices as they went along, and be able to visualize this in an easy way. They were our only customer for 6 years. And in 2012, they turned around and said, look, we can't have you can't have us as your only customer, right? You need to go and commercialize the product and therefore get funding and therefore go and sell this to other organizations. So in 2014, Cisco funded a few million into our organization as a Series A, and then Series B, Cisco and also Insight Partners invested more money. And that's the only investment we've ever had and ever really needed. We then acquired a number of different technologies to help bolster our solution. And just in 2021, we made another acquisition called Counterflow, which allows us to have a security offering as well. There are 3 solutions in our stack. One is LiveNX, which is what I'm going to talk about today. And this is that network observability. So a lot of organizations now are talking about that full observability stack. And that's normally made up of 3 solutions. One, which is predominantly ours, which is that LiveNX solution. We are providing that visibility of the network. But then they also go out and they get something like a Cisco 1000 Eyes or an AppD to do the other parts of that full observability stack. We also have LiveWire, which is that packet analysis solution, which I won't go into a great deal, but these solutions are designed to work with one another. And a lot of organizations understand the benefits of packet analysis. But we also have Threat Eye, which was that counterflow acquisition where we can provide network detection and response. And we do that by actually looking at the packets captured by LiveWire, and then we analyze those packets without the need for de-encryption. But as I said, the solution we're going to focus on today is LiveNX. So what is LiveNX? Well, LiveNX is a network performance monitoring tool, or NPM for short. It's driven by our patented visualization engine. And this is one of the benefits that a lot of customers see when they look at our solution, is just how visually, how visual the solution can be, and how easy it is to spot a problem within the network. We have that top left, that enterprise visibility, that C-suite visibility, where most C-suites will look at this and go, everything is green across the board, or maybe I've got one office location that is red, or one that is, which is worrying and it's orange. It's easy to understand. It's a traffic light based system, and they can get that top level information from there. The transport view, which is understanding the communication between different sites and different office locations and network locations, and you can actually pinpoint in real time the communication between various different locations. The virtual overlay view, which essentially is providing organizations with a real-time view of what is going on, but at a deeper level. And you're able to even roll back the time to when a problem occurred, and you're able to see that and play it back and see exactly what happened up until the point where that outage or that disruption took place. And then we have things like visual path analytics, where we're able to actually see the devices, the communication between those devices, and again, dive a little bit deeper into the site-specific details, which is this is one branch or one network, the devices that are in that network, how they're communicating with each other, what the telemetry or the packets or the flows are that are communicating. And then finally, that packet analytics, which is that deep dive into those packets and understanding exactly what's going on. The benefits really are that we can see across that entire network. Now, it doesn't matter what devices or what vendor is used. So yes, we're funded by Cisco. We're not a Cisco company. We're completely independent of any other vendor, but we're also very vendor agnostic as well. So as I said, when we looked at that network image earlier, it doesn't matter if you're using Fortinet. It doesn't matter if you're using Juniper or Palo Alto. It doesn't matter if you're using Cisco SD-WAN. We take in any telemetry, so long as it's a network packet or a flow, any device that sends any of those, we can capture and we can eliminate those network blind spots so that customers can focus on those performance issues. We can also understand that network performance. So if I can just for a second zoom in here a little bit. So here we can see that, again, it's traffic light system. Green is good, red is bad. And we can see here that we have something that is bad on voice and video, for example, on the MPLS. So we're able to understand and see exactly what's happening within these communications between the branches. This is real time. So organizations and users can go dive straight into there, and they can actually address that issue very quickly. We also have an integration with ServiceNow, which means that when a rule is set up, a ticket can be raised when something is triggered. And you can do this for anything. I mean, this example is WAN applications, right? VoIP and things like that. But this can be changed to anything that you need, and you can create literally any report for any requirement that you may have. And then lastly, we give that very actionable insight. So yes, we're showing you where the issue is, but we're also going to tell you how to identify and isolate that network problem so that you can then troubleshoot that problem and then resolve that issue very, very quickly and effectively. So how can LiveNX help with WAN and SD-WAN? So if you look at this image here, everything in blue is vManage. vManage is an incredibly popular, I think it's probably safe to say, the most popular SD-WAN solution out there in the market, whether it's Cisco SD-WAN or Meraki. But again, it has some downsides. So with vManage, it's a great tool, but you can only manage Cisco equipment. But you can only also see the edges. So you can't dive into those branches so much, or those campuses, or the non-Cisco devices or solutions that you may have. And then how do we go into the data center if it's non-Cisco? How do we look at infrastructure as a service? It's not Cisco, it's Microsoft Azure or AWS. And how do we look at those SaaS-based applications as well, right? Your SAP, your Citrix, and all this sort of stuff. So what we're doing is we're massively expanding the visualization and that viewpoint for any customer. One question that always comes up, because these guys are making a lot of noise at the moment, is, doesn't Cisco Thousand Eyes do this? The short answer is no. Cisco is actually our second largest customer globally. So we are the MPM solution for their own internal network, which, as you can imagine, is tens of thousands of devices. If Cisco Thousand Eyes could do this, they wouldn't renew every year, as you would expect. But Cisco Thousand Eyes does fix a different problem than what we do. So as LiveAction, what we're doing is we're seeing that whole organic topology view, traffic patterns across end to end of the infrastructure. Think of everything that you own: switches, routers, any kind of device that sends a packet or a flow. We're also analyzing real traffic in real time. So if you can imagine a network very much like the map of London, we are showing why congestion is building in this part of the network. Now, Cisco Thousand Eyes is generally deployed when looking at ISPs or applications out in the cloud, and they're looking at that application performance and topology data. They're using synthetic tests and synthetic data. It's not in real time. And if you could think about that same map, they're understanding why there could be congestion on a specific route from endpoint to endpoint. It's a different use case, it's a different tool, but Cisco are making a lot of noise about this because this is an important part of the full observability stack, right? But it's a different solution. We are very complementary to Thousand Eyes, and we're often sold alongside Thousand Eyes because we both do different jobs. So which organizations tend to benefit the most from our solutions? Well, does the organization use a lot of different tools and devices? We're going to give you guys a single pane glass view, regardless of the vendors, regardless of the tools, or wherever they're located. Is the organization looking to plan or is currently using SD-WAN? Great. Yeah, we can help close those deals and those projects much, much faster because we can help with that capacity planning. You can plumb our solution into your network, and we will automatically grab all of that device data, all of those locations, all into one place, tell you how much bandwidth is required in all of those locations to map out that network for you and massively reduce the amount of time and the amount of money it spends in planning for that project. Is the organization looking to do a technology refresh, or maybe they're migrating to the cloud, right? So for us, it doesn't matter because so long as it sends a device, packet or flow, we're going to capture that. And we're completely vendor agnostic. Again, migrating to the cloud, we support AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure. And is the organization actually looking for network performance monitoring? The amount of organizations I speak to who understand that they have a problem in the network, they have no idea where that problem is residing from or coming from, but they don't understand that there's a solution out there that will solve the problem. It's more accepted as a day-to-day part of the network and part of the organization. It's not a case of if the network's going to go down, it's a case of when it's going to happen. It's very similar to cybersecurity in that way. However, we all know that we need cybersecurity tools and we go and buy those tools. But network performance monitoring, a lot of organizations don't actually understand that there is a solution out there that can solve the issue. With us, the solution is LiveAction and packet capture for LiveWire. More and more organizations are adopting applications, and with applications come problems. And it's more often than not, it's quite difficult to troubleshoot those applications. Organizations I speak to understand that the problem tends to bounce around the network. If there is an issue, the network guy will turn around and go, hey, it's not the network, check the bandwidth. The person in charge of the bandwidth will go, no, bandwidth's fine, no problem here. And then it will go to the application guy, and the application guy goes, it's working perfectly fine. And it bounces around. So what we do is we reduce what we call the mean time to innocence. We are basically showing with facts, because packets and flows don't lie, we're able to show exactly where the problem is and what is causing that problem. So there is no more guesswork. I use the needle in a haystack. We give you the metal detector for you in order to help find that problem. And also on the application side, actually, we see about 80 to 90% of all network problems actually reside with the application. Something that isn't happening a great deal at the moment is mergers and acquisitions, but I'm sure in the coming years that will increase again. What tends to happen is when one company buys another, they inherit the devices, they inherit the team, they inherit everything else from the company they've just acquired or merged with. For us, it doesn't matter what they're using, right? All you need to do to extend that and push that visibility out to that company that you've merged with or acquired, you just need to purchase more LiveNX licenses. It's a very simplistic licensing model. You buy the core engine, and then for every device that you want to have captured, you buy one license. Again, same rules apply when expanding out into other regions and offices. We're providing that visibility across multiple sites. Some organizations, or a lot of organizations, do understand the benefit of packet capture. They want to understand why packets are being dropped or lost. So for that, we obviously have another solution called LiveWire. Some organizations do understand that there is a network performance monitoring tool out there, and a couple of organizations made a big amount of marketing push into the market. One of those is Riverbed. I don't know if we've got any Riverbed partners or customers on the call. Riverbed over the coming years have suffered quite greatly with losses and lack of funds, and they haven't been developing their product so much. So we often have a lot of customers coming to us asking if they can swap out Riverbed for us. And that tends to be on the NPM side. Riverbed have other tools that we don't compete with, fantastic tools, but a lot of customers are coming to us and saying, hey, we're a little bit nervous about what's going on with Riverbed at the moment. Are we able to look at something different? NetScout is a fantastic tool. It's a great tool. A lot of our customers that we look at, switching over to us have concerns about NetScout, but one of those is that it's massively expensive. And then a lot of organizations have SolarWinds as well, and SolarWinds obviously had quite a large security breach. So we've seen a lot of customers coming over from SolarWinds as well, as they're a little bit concerned about that breach and the impact that may have. Every organization has a slide like this, and we're no different. We have a lot of customers, and this is just a few that I can reference. You'll see, obviously, nearly in the middle of the screen there, Cisco. As I said earlier, Cisco is an investor, but also a customer of ours and our second largest customer over that. But we also have some other technology companies, Aruba, which is HP, NetApp. We also have Vodafone, AT&T, and all these sorts of guys here. So we have large organizations. However, we do have a number of small organizations as well, right? Because it's very dependent on the network being the business and that type of organization. How important is it for that organization to keep that business up and running? It's not so much about, you need to be a high enterprise customer to benefit from this. We have a number of medium and small size organizations that gain a lot of benefit just because of the type of organization that they are. As I said before, we have a very close relationship with Cisco, and Cisco often bring us into opportunities to help us close their Cisco SD-WAN deployment and planning opportunities that they may have. And some of those customers are here now. So, one which I will mention is ServiceNow. ServiceNow, we actually have that integration with, whereby we can raise tickets and other things with them for anybody using ServiceNow, which just helps speed up the process of understanding those issues and then resolving the issues as well. There's a number of organizations on here that I'm sure that you'll know, BT, Facebook, and these sorts of guys. As I said, with the competitive side, we compete with Riverbed, SolarWinds, NetScout, Plixer, VRV. There's a whole host of them out there in the market. The kind of benefits that a lot of organizations have with us is that it's, you know, the way that we present that data is unmatched. We're presenting so much information, but also in a very easy way to understand, and a very actionable insight for that organization and that customer. A lot of these other vendors will also, in order to have that holistic approach, they will sell a lot of different solutions in order to make the original solution that you were looking at actually work. So with us, as I said, it's very simple. If you want NPM, you buy the engine, you buy the licenses based on a number of devices that you want to have captured. And then if you want packet capture, great, you can buy packet capture separately, but they work together, and the same for NPM. It's very, very simplistic. It's an easy model to understand. And again, just on the integrations, we have a number of integrations. There's a lot more than just what you're seeing here. We have a very close relationship with Gigamon. If there's any Gigamon customers or partners on the call, then we have a great integration with these guys. But again, Palo Alto, Fortinet, Cisco, ServiceNow, all these sorts of guys we work very closely with. They're not just APIs; they are more of a technology alliance that we have with these guys. There's a lot of benefits that we provide the vendor with their existing customer base. That's everything from my side. Happy to take any questions or, you know, and again, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate everyone taking the time out to spend some time with me. So.
Alex, if you have any questions, yeah.
I'll try to.
Okay, Nick, you are.
You can try to play the quiz. And, if you need the trials, please send me the request. I will provide you sub and also add the technical support and engineers who can help to implement solution or show you how it works.
Thank you, Luke. Thanks.
And please do not hesitate to leave your questions.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate your time.